Hello and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Chiropractor. It's your host, Patrick Hogg, and we're going to go to a slightly different profession today. This gentleman I met from my inner circle, and interestingly enough, he's super comfortable being mixed in with a bunch of chiropractors. So the majority of people within our inner circle are actually chiropractors, but who we've got on with us today is actually an osteopath. And one of the things that I really seriously admire about this next gentleman is his ability to adapt in amongst his peers. And I know there are slight differences in philosophy, but Paul has taken everything that he's learned as an osteopath and come and worked with a load of chiropractors. And I have to really admit, like his trail of thinking on health is very similar to what we have as chiropractors. He works in a clinic up in London. I'm not sure of the exact location, and I know he's got multiple associates working for him. He has got a really busy, thriving practice, but he's going to tell us a little bit more about himself. It's Dr. Paul Musk. So welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you. Well, we're not doctors as osteopaths, but thank you for that. I do feel like a doctor, though, I must admit. My name's Paul Musk. So I've been in practice for 20 years. Ran a clinic in Canary Wharf, which was very successful, sold that to one of my associates, and then kind of wanted to put all my effort into one clinic and serve that community really well. And I love being in a clinic and a local community like this, because you see the nans and granddads, the mums and dads. I did find working in the city that people were a bit transient, people coming in and out. You didn't feel that sense of community as such. Still very rewarding, but I love just treating families and getting people healthy again. And it's such a shame because so many people lose that health, and it's innate. Our body wants to be healthy, and yet we fall off the rails somehow. And so I just love getting people back on the wagon again.
And you are a family man yourself as well, because I know you've got two kids? You've got a boy and a girl?
Yeah, so I've got two great kids, 10 and 12. They are William and Charlotte, and we have a fantastic time. And my wife, very active family. We go to the Alps for all our summer holidays. Generally, we go rock climbing, mountain biking. We got a cable car up to 2,500, 3,000 meters, and spent all day coming down trails. They're only 9 years old when they first started. Whitewater rafting, hiking, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, we're pretty out there. It's good.
And that's the great thing about I find about chiropractic and osteopathic families, like the natural therapists or like holistic therapists. When you look at their families really thrive. Like you look at their kids they're doing well in school. They're never overweight. Their concentration's brilliant. They're polite. And again, I've met so many chiropractic families, and the majority of them are excelling in their sports. There's just something very different about chiropractic and osteopathic families, and the level of health not just in the parents, but actually how they transpire and actually teach that down to the next generation as well. And I find that it was interesting. I saw you doing a video the other day with, I can't remember whether it was I think it was your daughter, where she was climbing around you and then climbing over your shoulders and then back through your legs. So it was like one of those, I think they call them the round the world challenges, where you've got to climb around the waist and then through the, and again, you making exercise fun.
And you know what? It's really important because there are people in our profession who aren't fit and healthy. And I just believe that you've got to walk the walk and you've got to talk the talk. If patients are coming in and they're not living that healthy lifestyle, and therefore that's led to getting headaches and back pain. If I'm going to sit there and tell them, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, I've got to be doing it. I think, you're a fraud if you're telling people what to do and you're not doing it yourself. I don't know how I would feel a fraud. And I don't think you can have that gravitas and be able to tell those patients, when they sit there and go, I can't do it, you go, well, I'm doing it. I'm running a business. I've got 2 children. I'm really busy. So if I can do it, you can do it. And I just think, there are a lot of people in healthcare who aren't healthy. And they're telling people to stop eating the cakes and lose weight and stop smoking, and they're not healthy themselves. So I think it's really, really important as practitioners, you know, you've got to live the healthy lifestyle yourself.
Yeah, and it's really difficult. Like if you're not taking care of yourself, it's very difficult to take care of others. Like it's
I believe so.
Completely true. And the other thing is as well, patients can read it when you're being inauthentic. Like people know when you're lying. Like we all have triggers and tells. So the thing is, if you're saying, look, you need to do X and you're genuinely not living by that, I completely agree. I couldn't agree more that, you know, personally, if I went to a personal trainer and they were 6 stone overweight, I don't think I'd last very long with them. Unless they had such a level of education, they knew everything, but they didn't want to live by that. And again, I can't see that happening because it doesn't make sense. If you understand the thing that you're trying to teach, realistically, you should be living by it the majority of the time.
Couldn't agree more.
So really interesting. So look, obviously chiropractic and osteopath work varies very slightly. So maybe you can just tell our listeners some of the key differences that you've noted between chiropractors and osteopaths, considering you spend so much time with chiropractors.
Well, really, really interesting because, again, I think there are more similarities than differences. And I think, personally, it's a shame that the professions aren't closer together, personally.
I couldn't agree more.
Having spent lots and lots of times with chiropractors and osteopaths, it saddens me that, you know, we're still at quite two ends of the spectrum when we've got so much in common.
The funny thing, we can't even agree in our own profession, let alone amongst different professions.
Absolutely. And, you know, and I think, you know, we can learn from each other as well. That they are very, very similar, but there are some slight differences. And I think something that I've learned from chiropractic is that a big difference in osteopaths generally, and again, they're not all like this, but generally, osteopaths are fantastic at getting people out of pain, and they do an amazing job. But they tend to stop there as a profession. And what happens is that the problem comes back 4, 5, 6 months, a year later down the line, the pain's back and the patient goes in, gets fantastic care yet again. But then the osteopath says, great, off you go. And then, you know, as a profession, we don't tend to deal with prevention. It's very much get people out of pain and then leave them. What I found with chiropractors, they're much more passionate about prevention. Now, they do a great job again. They get people out of pain. They do a fantastic job. And I've met some amazing chiropractors in my time. But one thing that I've noticed that's different is they're much more into prevention. So it's a question of, look, we've got you out of pain. Let's keep treating you on a regular basis to maintain your function, get you in tip-top health, both physically, mentally, and chemically, and keep you that way. And something I've adopted long time ago was that approach. And I must admit, it's changed my practice. I'm so much happier. My patients are healthier. And it's definitely something that you know, I agree with. And so I think, you know, that's what I've been inspired by. Chiropractic inspired me to look in that way. So yeah, it's been very, very good.
And this is, how long have you been practicing, Paul?
20 years now.
And see, this is the great thing. I love this. You know, when people have been practicing for 20 years and they're as humble as Paul is being right now, in that, you know, we can still learn off of each other. We can still, and honest to God, the person that thinks they know everything knows the least.
Well, when you look at, you know, businesses per se, is those businesses that look at other businesses and they go, well, what are they doing? How are they, progressing? How are they working? And it's having that ability to adapt and to look around and say, well, I know it's not what we do, but let's have a look at it. And I think things like cycling have done that. Team Sky, that's something that I model kind of my business on, is the Team Sky model their cyclists. And they said they were going to win the Tour de France, and everybody laughed at them because a British team have never won the Tour de France ever, never come anywhere near it. And Team Sky says, you know, we're going to do it. And what they did is they looked out of the cycling profession and said, right, let's do this, let's do that. And everyone laughed at them and said, you can't do that, you can't do this. And then within 2 or 3 years, they've won the Tour de France, they've won it pretty much every year since. phenomenal. So again, it's a question of looking outside your industry and not being scared to change things and do different things and bring different things in. You know, just because this is the way it's always been done doesn't mean the way it has to be done.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
We can learn so much more off of each other. So yeah, I think, you know, philosophically very, very similar. You know, classical osteopaths, I'm more of a classical osteopath. They're much more spinal, but osteopaths tend to be coming out more days, much more, I suppose, more functional, based on more muscle and joint problems rather than getting back to the neuro. I've noticed that, you know, when I was being trained, it was the neuromusculoskeletal system, and now it's just the musculoskeletal system.
Yeah.
I think what happened to the neuro part of it, because nothing happens unless your brain tells your body what to do.
Can agree
the muscles
more.
don't just work on their own. Your brain has got to send a message to my hand, and it's got to move. And so, you know, I think a lot of osteopaths, in my experience, I've been training up lots and lots of associates. You know, we've got a really busy clinic, probably trained over 15, 20 associates, and many of them have come to me struggling. Some of them have wanted to give up practice completely. And yet, once they're here, they're really, really busy. They've got a very, very busy list, happy clients, and they've found their mojo again. They know they're enjoying osteopathy again. So,
funny, I've had a few chiropractors approach me in exactly the same way. I've started mentoring a few chiropractors for exactly the same reasons. You know, because interesting enough, actually, the school that I studied at to be a chiropractor is now run by a physiotherapist. The principal's a physiotherapist, and so a lot of the true principles of it have actually started to kind of go out the window, which is sad. It's sad because we've kind of gone away from where we basically belong. Anyway, we're gonna jump through and ask you a couple of questions about how you look after yourself, and maybe you can give some tips on how others can look after themselves. So, look, as an osteopath, what are some of the things that you do personally to take care of your own health?
Okay, so as an osteopath, you know, I believe the spine is important, but, you know, you've got to look at all the peripheral joints as well. And I think osteopaths do tend to look at peripheral joints probably more so than chiropractors are, you know, in my experience. And I think it's really important. But some of the things that I do are that keeps me healthy. One is that I cycle to work every day. You know, about 10 years ago, you know, I was driving to work, getting lazy. The kids came along, and I just said, something's got to change. Sold the car and literally just had to start cycling to work every day. Wind, rain, snow, you name it, I'm in it, cycling to work. I'm a mountaineer, I do a lot of climbing, and there's a saying that says there's no such thing as bad weather, it's bad equipment. So I have the right equipment, and I cycle to work every day. It's really healthy. And I think that's really important. You know, I juice 5 days a week. I don't use fruit generally. I just have 1 or 2 bits of fruit in it, but it's mainly vegetables. So raw veg, lots of broccoli, spinach, and beetroot, and ginger, lemon.
Is there a reason for that?
I think it's just, I call it liquid gold. It just gets all those raw nutrients in your body. It's going to get, it's going to give your body that rocket boost every single day that it needs. All the antioxidants, all the vitamins and the minerals. You know, a lot of people, health, you know, food is medicine. And we're forgetting that.
Even is it Socrates or Hippocrates? I can't remember which one said it. It might have even been both. I think they've both been quoted, like, food be your medicine and medicine be your food. But I just wondered whether there was a reason why you chose vegetables, not fruits. And I'm assuming it's the fructose.
It's the sugar content. So again, I think this is something a lot of people get wrong, is when they juice or they do smoothies, they put way too much, they put way too much fruit in. And it's just full of sugar. So, you know, you wouldn't eat 5 oranges and 2 bananas, and, you know, you wouldn't eat all that normally. So, you know, think about, you know, what was it Tony Robbins said, go over to Common Sense Corner. I know what this amazing juice guru is telling me, but does it make sense? You know, and I think just ramp on down the fruits and put more vegetables in it.
It's interesting because, you know, it's just, I think an apple's got something like 18 grams of sugar or 16 grams of sugar in it, which is half of, so I mean, 2 apples is equivalent to like a Mars bar or something. It's actually a lot more than you think it is.
Well, it is, yeah. So I think, you know, it's important to juice and to put the vegetables in it. And then I think the other big one that I do is your mental health. And it's so important to decrease the stress in your life. You know, stress is a killer. We forget about the mental aspects of health. And it's so important to try and switch off from work, to try and have a hobby. The amount of people I see don't have hobbies. And it's crazy, you know, the hobby is work. But again, I think, you know, you've got to have some hobbies, and to de-stress that brain. You know, when that brain is, when it's on stress, we need time to relax. And a lot of us don't relax. And so, yeah, you know, at weekends, I'm off with the kids, we're climbing, we're walking, we're back to nature, we're looking at amazing views. Try and leave work at home when I leave work. So I think the mental aspect of health is something that's massively overlooked.
Couldn't agree more. And it's something that's come up a lot in these podcasts, because I think, you know, this is the thing, is even medicine has actually started to address it. You know, they're starting to offer us stuff like CBT and stuff on the NHS, because, you know, realistically, we know that there are certain things that drugs cannot physically manage, and it is more to do with our environment and setting the environment up for success. So having said that about setting the environment up for success, look, it sounds like you're obviously setting up the environments for success. You're probably setting up the environment for success for your patients. Maybe you can give us a couple of tips that people could basically utilize in order to actually maybe make some changes in their health if they wanted to today.
Okay, so I think you've got to have some goals. I think that's the one thing. A lot of people don't have goals, and it's got to be visceral, it's got to be emotional, otherwise you're not going to do it. One of my goals is that I want to be rock climbing at 80 years of age. There are people out there still climbing big faces at 80 years of age, even 30-year-olds can't get up. That's one of my goals personally. And every time I pick up rubbish food, every time I don't exercise, you know, I say to myself, is that getting me towards my goal? And the answer is no. And if it's not getting me towards my goal, then why am I doing it or not doing it? And so I think you've got to have a goal. You've got to have a big goal. Otherwise, you're just going to fall off the rails. And so for me, you know, that's my goal. You know, I want to be fit and healthy at that age, doing the things I love still. And, you know, I want to be doing that stuff for my kids as well. I don't want to be just an old granddad who sits in a chair dribbling, and you know, I want to be out there doing things with my kids. So I had kids a bit later in life, so I want to be out there doing it. So that's my goal. And I think, you know, for people, that's a big tip. Sit down, piece of paper, and what's important to you. Get that big goal.
Yeah, and then ask yourself the question: Is this gonna inhibit, or is this gonna allow me to succeed in my goal? Because if you ask that question for pretty much everything that you're doing in your life, and this is the point that it's interesting, because, you know, the NHS has done a brilliant job in increasing the amount of time that people live for.
Yes.
You know, this is something that we've seen quite obviously occur over the last couple of decades. People are living longer. However, the rateable quality, the quality of people's life is now questionable. Yeah. We're seeing, I think the statistics now say that from 2020, that they're expecting at least 1 in 2 people to develop cancer. Yeah. You know, the top 5 biggest diseases in this country, the majority of them are preventable. So you know, you've got stuff like heart disease, again, cancer, diabetes, all these metabolic syndromes that we're seeing, and, you know, they're all preventable diseases, all of them. The majority of diseases that are the top killers in this country. And so we've got all of this, like you say, you know, we've got people living longer, but you don't want to be that person that's sitting in the corner dribbling when you're looking after your grandkids. You know, people want to have their mind. They want to be able to move. They want to be able to take their kids to the park. They might want to be able to go on bike rides or take their kids down to the park and play football. And it's really interesting what you say, like having that as a goal. And people, you know, sometimes you have to have your, because this is something that we do quite a lot, right? We have our 1-year goal. And me and Paul have done this with our coach. You have your 1 year goal, and then you have your 5 year goal, and then you have your 10-year goal. And, you know, we have those goals set for us, both for our businesses and then for our personal life as well. Because, you know, where do you want to be?
Yeah, and I think that's important. You know, again, I always try and do something every year, you know, have those personal goals. So not only have I got my overarching goal, but things like, you know, what am I going to learn this year?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to go somewhere different this year? Am I going to do something different this year? So it's really important to think about those goals and just say, you know, what am I going to learn? What am I going to do? Who am I going to see? And have that written down. Really, really important.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. It's interesting. Like you see all these health professionals, they've all got goals. They're all driven people. And there's a reason why they're all healthy, right? Because they set themselves a task and they stick by it.
I think Brian Tracy said something like only 4 or 5% of people in the world have goals and the other 95% work for them.
Too true, man. Too true. Because that's the thing, right? Is if you, I couldn't agree more. I think it's brilliant. I think that's a really nice quote as well. I like that. Okay, so look, I'm gonna move on because I'm cautious of your time.
In fact, actually, just one on that, Brian Tracy did a study in Harvard in the 70s to the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Tracy talks about this, and that they went to Harvard and they asked who's got goals, and only 13% of people had mental goals. And then they said, how many of you have actually written down your goals? And something like 5% of them had written them down. And then what they did is they went back 10 years later and looked at those people and found out, you know, how well they were doing. And they found out that 13% of people who had goals earned twice as much as those who had no goals. And that 5% or 2% that had written them down were earning, I can't remember the figures now, but they were earning 3, 4, 5 times as many as the people who the 13% who had the goals. So it's fascinating how important they are.
Yeah, yeah. And I know stuff like Olympic athletes and stuff do the same kind of thing. They write their times down and blah, 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 in order to, again, try and, you know, look, they constantly got the timer on. And, you know, look, a 100-meter sprinter will go over the line and the first thing they'll look for, how long did it take? It's the first thing they'll look for. And that you know, they'll be driven by the result. But the thing is, if you don't have a result to follow, why are you going to stick to it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so look, Paul, obviously you've been in practice for 20 years now. If you could go back to talk to Paul at where did you study osteopathy, by the way?
The British School of Osteopathy.
Is that in London?
That's it, in London. Yeah, it's the biggest, the oldest school. Very, very good.
So if you could go back to those days when you were at osteopath school, okay, and you could say, oh, do you know what? I really wish Paul from the future would jump back and tell me what things are going to be like in 20 years' time. What would you tell yourself? What things might you do slightly differently in order to make your life significant?
I think that's, for me, that would be an easy one. I've always tried to do things myself. Mm-hmm. And something that I realised is no one ever got to where they got to on their own. And I went for years trying to do it on my own. Did all right, but you know, once I started, looking outside my industry, getting a coach, and paying for help, that's when things really took off for me. Absolutely. So I think, you know, go back and tell myself, just go and get the help. You know, forget your ego. I know you want to try and do it on your own, but just go and get help. Go and get help. And people then quite often say, well, I can't afford to get help. And you go, well, that's why you need to get help. You know, if you can't afford it, and you need it. So for me, that's what I would tell myself.
It's true, right? And like, you know, this is interesting because when someone says I can't afford help, like, can you afford not to have help? Like you just said, there's that. It might cost you £300 to have a personal trainer for a month, but what's it going to cost you if you have a heart attack in a year?
Yeah. People are too scared to invest in themselves. They just, or a coach, or they just see it as wasted money, or they can't see the benefits that are going to happen. But for anything, you can't just buy shares and then the next day they go up. You know, it's unusual. You've got to invest in something, haven't you? So you've got to speculate, you've got to spend the money, and then put the time in, and then get the results.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. Again, I couldn't agree more. And
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, I'm very lucky that I'm in because I'm in 4 years in practice. This is my 4th year in practice, and you know, I've had a coach from my 2nd year in practice. So
which is unusual, isn't it? I mean, I think you've done amazingly well, and you're in a fantastic place, and the things you're doing, you know, you're going to achieve what I achieved in 20 years in 5 years.
Don't blow my trumpet. I need you to talk me down. But yeah, I'm very fortunate that I found that earlier on in my career as opposed to waiting. I'm very lucky, very lucky. Paul, there might be a load of people that have really enjoyed the information that you've shared with us today. If someone wanted to learn a little bit more about you, how could they get in contact with you? Like, what ways could they get in contact? Or maybe you've got some resources or information or a book or something that, you know, people can jump on to find out a little bit more about you.
Yeah. So obviously go to the website www.osteo4u.co.uk. You know, I probably run one of the busiest osteopathic clinics in the country. We're really, really busy. When I speak to many osteopaths, no one's as busy as we are. So, you know, we're really good at what we do. So yeah, if you're interested in finding out how an osteopath can help you, jump onto the website. Loads of information on there. Book is coming out, and in the process of lockdown, we're doing the book. So hopefully the book will be out in the next couple of weeks. So that will be good. So the book will be on the website as well. Yeah. So very much the book I'm doing is very much on mind health and how you see once your brain goes out of balance, your body tends to follow. The good news is once you get your brain back in balance, your body tends to follow too. And so again, the book's going to be all about that. So I'm really excited about that.
Amazing. That's so cool. I'll have to jump and grab a copy of your book when it comes out.
Absolutely.
Everyone in our group's just like plowing through becoming published authors. So I'm gonna have a lot of people's books to read soon, right?
Absolutely.
Amazing. So look, I'm aware that we're coming to the end of the show, but I wanted to give you a chance to give us one last wow. So the wow moment is our words of wisdom, or our parting words of wisdom from our guests. So maybe you've got like a mantra or a quote or something that you kind of feel like will really touch light on the topics that we've been going through today that you feel like might give some more value to our customers.
There are so many great quotes out there, and to distill it, I mean, I'm going to have
a whole podcast on quotes, right?
I always like to be different. I'm going to go for 2 rather than 1. But I mean, they're 2 really powerful ones. The first one is the Nike one. Just do it. You know, I just love that. It's just do it. So many people, we faff around, we don't do stuff, we procrastinate. Just do it. You know, how do I do this? How do I do that? Just do it. Just start. You know, so for me, that would be the big one. That's just do it. And secondly, is the other one is that there are 2 pains in this world. There is the pain of discipline, and then there's the pain of regret. But you've got to suffer pain either way, right? So again, just do it. You know, there's the pain of being healthy. I've got to eat the right food. I've got to go out and do exercise. But there's also the pain of regret, because if you don't do it, and you suffer with many illnesses, and you look back and go, I wish I did it. So either way, there's a pain, right? So just suck up the pain and just get on with it and just do it.
That's amazing. Actually, it's interesting because that kind of also almost ties in with Ryan's quote about sloppy success. You know, getting something done badly is better than not getting anything done at all. So, I mean, if you're just starting exercise, you might have absolutely no idea how to do exercise. You might have absolutely no idea what a good diet looks like. You have absolutely no, but actually making the effort to try and do the thing, and just doing the thing, just getting something done is better than you just think, like you say, procrastinating about it. Because at the end of the day, like, something could be perfect, but someone will always find a flaw.
Absolutely.
Always. Like, you could make the best car in the world and someone will look at it and go, oh, it's too streamlined. I need to be able to get 5 kids in there. It's never going to be perfect for everyone, ever. So true. So true. I love that. So look, Paul, thank you so much for jumping on with us this morning. It's been an absolute blessing. What we'll do is we'll put your website description. I just want to check that one last time. It was .com, not .co.uk.
.co.uk.
.co.uk. So we'll put the description for your website in the description below the podcast. This is obviously going to go out on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. So you'll be able to find it on your favorite listening platform anyway. So again, if your clients want to jump on and have a little look and see some of the messages that you're spreading. But I just want to say thank you for being so humble and sharing some of your knowledge with us. Look, 20 years in practice, and he's still humble. He's still looking to learn. He's still hungry. So look, guys, you can learn a lot from mixing with people, not necessarily just in your profession, but other professions. And like Paul said, there's not that many differences so long as you find the right practitioners. So I want to say thank you once again. Thanks for coming on the show. That's all we've got time for today with Coffee with the Chiropractor with your host, Patrick Hogg.
Thank you, Patrick. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on, and I really enjoyed it. It's my first podcast, and so yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, man.
See you later. Bye.